All right. Everyone else is just going to have to join us later. So, welcome once again. We're going to be talking about hybrid Oracle DR today. It's very much an up and coming topic. We hear about it more and more from our customers and partners. And it's one of those things that sounds quite simple in principle. I mean, you've got an environment on premise, you got an environment on the cloud, they're connected. How hard can that be? But it's one of those things that's actually a lot more challenging once you get down into the details. So we're very excited to speak to you about it today. Before we get underway, normal housekeeping rules apply. If you do have any questions, we encourage you to ask them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Please don't wait until the end of the webinar. As soon as you have a question, just put it in there, and we'll try and answer it at the end of the session, or indeed even during the session. Just because we always get asked, yes, the recording will be provided to you shortly after the webinar is complete in a follow-up email, so you'll be able to rewatch all the content at your leisure. And if you would prefer to follow along in a language other than English, we do have translations available in captions. Please click the Show Captions button at the bottom of your screen and select the language you prefer. So the agenda for today is we're going to kind of take this in three high-level parts. First, we're going to talk about what is hybrid DR and why its adoption is accelerating. Then we'll actually dive down into some of the challenges associated with it, specifically with regards to Oracle Cloud. I think that's probably most relevant to most of the people in the room. And then we're going to talk to you a little bit about how we at DB Visit simplify and automate this process with our standby multi-platform product. So we probably should have started with this slide. My name is Alex. Hopefully I bear some resemblance to that nice photo there. I'll take my glasses off just for a moment. I am the head of development and product for the company, and I'm joined today by our Oracle Ace Pro, our master of anti-disaster, Vijay, who is our head of customer services. He's going to be taking you through most of the technical parts of this webinar today. As an Oracle Ace, he's obviously very well equipped to discuss the details of exactly what the challenges are with Oracle Cloud Hybrid DR. For those of you who haven't heard about DB Visit before, sort of 20-second introduction, we are a database disaster recovery specialist company. It's the only thing we do. It's the only thing we've been doing for 20 years, and we'd like to think we're pretty good at it. Thousands of customers across the planet in over 120 countries seem to agree. Our only product, our only service is to provide fantastic world-class, real-world, reliable database disaster recovery on Oracle, SQL Server, and Postgres. Hybrid DR is obviously a big part of that, and we've spent a lot of time working on making it simple for you, making it understandable, even if you're not using our product, to give you some guidance as to some of the best practices and some of the things not to do when dealing with it.
Thanks, Alex, for the introduction.
Yeah, that's what Vijay sounds like. You'll be hearing a lot more of him shortly. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what is hybrid DR and why is it accelerating. And the main reason, I guess, is it's no different from on-premise DR. The main reason is because we live in a world of uncertainty. I don't think I have to spend any time going into that, especially given the events of the last few weeks. We live in an uncertain world, and failure really can occur at any time. I'm not going to read out all the data on screen you can see there, but the key metric, I think, is the one on the top right there. So 96% of global IT companies have experienced at least one outage in the last 3 years. That's an outage affecting their core business in some way. And obviously, as uncertainty increases, that already extremely high percentage is likely to go even higher. So as the chance of disaster goes up, so does the desire for disaster recovery. And the cloud is certainly not immune. Something we used to talk about quite a lot a couple of years ago, less so now, is this common misconception that if you're in the cloud, you're somehow okay. That just by virtue of being in cloud, you don't have to worry about downtime. You don't have to worry about disaster recovery. I think these days people are a little bit more aware, in part because of examples like the ones on your screen right now, that the cloud is not immune to downtime. The cloud is very vulnerable for all the advantages that you get with, resource duplication and things like that. You get more risk points with the complexity of the cloud, with routing and with network configuration and with multi-region setup. So the cloud is absolutely vulnerable to downtime. For every one of these public outage examples that you can see on screen right now, obviously we deal with people that go through disaster recovery scenarios. I can tell you that for every one of those, there's 20 that never make it to the public space, that the companies just keep private. So the cloud is vulnerable, and you do need to take care of it. The other reason is because regulation and compliance requirements around disaster recovery are really starting to increase. Again, some examples of your screen there, depending on where you are in the world. A lot of these have been around for a while. GDPR requirements have been around, it seems, for a long time, but people kind of didn't take it too seriously. Over the last year and a half, we're starting to actually see these being enforced. So we're starting to see NIS2 regulation becoming compulsory for certain deals. We're beginning to see companies getting chased for GDPR compliance, and a part of all these tends to be, how do you protect your data? How do you secure your data? How can you be sure that you can report any incidents? And as probably most of the people on this call know, your most critical data is in your database. So protecting your database is key to meeting these compliance requirements. And so what a lot of people choose to do is to stand up some sort of, or to trial some sort of hybrid DR approach. A lot of companies, of course, run legacy on-premise environments, and they're kind of dipping their toe into the cloud. And what they end up with is a hybrid DR situation. Now, clouds really like you to, the cloud providers, they really like you to bring your data in, right? They don't so much like you to take your data out. And so what people meet with once they start trying this is that, well, it's nice and easy or relatively easy to migrate into the cloud, but it's not so easy to migrate out. And of course, for a DR strategy, you have to be able to do both. So that's where the challenges kind of start. That's what most of this presentation is going to be about. And because of the reasons we've just discussed, customers have this need more and more often. 70% of organizations, Gartner says, will adopt a hybrid or multi-stage or multi-cloud strategy by the end of, that was last year. I think their definition of a multi-cloud strategy might differ a little bit from mine. Certainly in my personal experience, I don't think too many companies, for example, go cloud to cloud in terms of different clouds for their database setup, although some do. But the key point is that people are trying to differentiate. People are trying not to put all their eggs into one basket, and people at the same time are trying to, if they're on premise, go to at least one cloud environment to basically to trial it, to see what the costs are, to see what the benefits are. And typically, every one of these different locations has a different DR strategy for in DBA's minds. So an on-premise to on-premise environment, company might have some custom scripts or something worked out for that. Those don't work in a hybrid DR situation. Company might develop something for a hybrid DR scenario that doesn't work on premise. And every time you, as any experienced DBA will tell you, anytime you have a separate workflow, that's bad. Because when disaster actually strikes, what you want is a single standardized, reliable process, one playbook, one process that you follow. Otherwise, if everything is a custom solution, well, you're going to get custom problems as well. So I'll pass you over to Vijay, who will now tell you a little bit about Oracle Cloud, and we're going to start diving down into some of the unique challenges associated with that, because I think it's something that people underestimate.
Thanks, Alex, for the introduction. And Yeah, it is very important to understand why OCI and what are the benefits that come across with OCI as well. Because OCI provides more advantages and it is well suited for a hybrid environment because from an cloud perspective, that's where it's more flexible for your Oracle databases and most adaptable as well. Um, so one of the key things that we come across is built-in TDE for your Oracle OCI interfaces for your databases, which is not available in your on-premise solution for Oracle Standard Edition and requires additional license for your Enterprise Edition. And the licensing model is much more flexible with OCA, where you have a pay-as-you-go model, where unlike the traditional perpetual licensing model with Oracle, the OCI offers you a pay-as-you-go model where you're charged based on your usage and a single per hour usage as well for both your infrastructure and also your Oracle license. So if you're having your not only your production environments, but if you're having your UAT or dev environments, you can choose to keep uptime to minimum to save on both license and infrastructure costs, which is not the same for your on-premise environments. And operation speed and consistency, which is very because we are using Oracle native tools wherein the setup and everything is much more faster. That's some of the things where why we say that OCA has its own advantages other than other cloud providers, especially for Oracle databases. So if you look at the image here, we can clearly figure out what is the licensing cost, what is the cost of your infrastructure, your storage, and your license for a single month for a standard edition databases with two OCPUs with 32 GB RAM and around 712 GB high performance storage. So it comes to around $560, which is for New Zealand dollars. So this is one of the key things that where we can easily estimate the cost estimate that is provided, and and other thing is you can have your DR environments scaled based on your initial requirements rather than to have it scaled to your what do you say as a production environment. So you can scale down your DR environments as low as possible so that it can be utilized or scaled up afterwards. And so, as we said, provisioning is much more faster, especially with DBCS environments where it's only takes around 30 minutes to provision your infrastructure, your Oracle home, and your database, which is very great. And at the same time, uh, patching and is much more simpler with OCA console. So all your database grid patching can be directly applied from your OCA console itself, so you don't have to manually go and apply. And at the same time, the scaling up of your environments can be directly done from your OCA console as well. So these are some of the advantages with OCA DBCS. But we have to we need to know what are the other types of infrastructure that are available in OCA. Here we are not concentrating on Exadata systems or autonomous database systems, but we are concentrating on OCA compute systems where it's a bare metal VM-based system, which is exactly like your on-premise environment, where you have full control of your operating system and you do the Oracle installation, you do the patching manually, and Oracle licenses is bring your own license. And there are some advantages here where the backups can be directly managed from your OCA console. You can monitor your database from your OCA console as well, and it is supported for your Linux and Windows environments. But with OCA-based database services, the environment is pre-built, whether it's a standard edition or enterprise edition. Enterprise edition, you can provision your database along with your environments where you have access to your OS, and it creates your Oracle home and it creates your database as well. And the patching lifecycle is completely managed from the OCA console, so you don't have to the days of applying manual patches over. So you can click on the OCI console for a specific environment and apply a grid patch and database patch to the latest version easily. And there are multiple images that are available so that you can choose and create based environments based on your on-premise requirements as well. And the license is included uh, uh, with this particular base database services. And another key thing is it's only available on Linux environment, so it's not available on Windows. So we now understand what are all the infrastructure items that are available within OCI system, but we need to understand what are the two key use cases of a standby, because that's where hybrid systems come into picture. So the first thing is our need for a disaster recovery, and this is becoming increasingly popular because of the fact that it can be provisioned much more faster, and at the same time, needing of a DR requirements improves your resiliency of an existing on-premise, which is a no-brainer actually. And at the same time, creating them in OCI, it's much more simpler and faster. And another key aspect here is out-of-region DR environments can be spinned up much more faster than your on-premise environments, where if it's out of region, you have to provision your servers, you have to find a place, find a rack, to provision your servers, install your Oracle, and then manage them as well. But with OCA, you can just spin up these environments out of region within minutes. And so the utilizing the license included option, that is pay per OCPU, helps you to kind of scale based on your requirements. Not you don't have to buy your entire licensing. You don't have to pay your entire licensing cost based on your OCPU or CPU requirements for your on-premise environments, but you can scale down your DR in such a way that you pay only for what you use, and you can scale up in your systems are getting what do you say, migrated. At the same time, so the second use case is a complete or partial migration of database to Oracle Cloud. This is very cool because this is used for scaling your environment. For example, if you need more resources of your databases on your on-premise, you can just migrate it to OCI, and then you can scale them there. And you can easily perform gradual migration of your production workloads to your from your on-premise to OCI, because the provision is much more faster. And another aspect here is if you have your OCI environments, the fallback is also much more simpler as well. So if for some reason your migration doesn't work, you just shut down your machines and move back to OCI, move back to your on-premise, because and the infrastructure costs associated with it are immediately gone from your billing, because it is not a permanent capital expenditure or an operating expenditure from an on-premise point of view. So having a physical replication environment in a hybrid system solves both use cases for DR and also for your migration purposes. So what we do is we just create a standby database in OCI while keeping the primary database in on-premise. This gives your organizations very low risk to explore cloud without committing to a full migration from day one. So that's one of the key advantages. It also provides you with a safe space to test standby database in cloud, and also you can validate the performance, connectivity, security, and all those things can be validated directly in your OCI environments, and that too without touching your production environment. And cost-wise, as I said earlier, this is also very efficient, because if you don't need it, you can just shut down the environments. And if you're not using during the weekends, you can just shut down the environments while testing purposes. And another key aspect is the migration is also very smooth process. So either you do a graceful switchover or you do a failover to your OCI environments. It's preferred to do a switchover, because if there is any issues with your OCI production environments, you can easily switch back to your DR. Now let's look how simple this hybrid setup looks like. So, so primary database is running in an on-premise, the standby database is running in OCI, and it is constantly getting synchronized between standby and primary. So either using data guard or using DB visit, what happens is the standby is always kept in sync with your primary. And during your any DR scenario, disaster scenario, what we do is we fail over to the OCI environment, or during migration scenarios, we just switch over to your OCI environments. So as simple as it
Oh,
looks
yeah,
in
I was
practice,
just about to say, if only it was as simple as it looked.
yes.
Yeah, VJ is making a great show of oh look, you can just seamlessly migrate and you can seamlessly fail over and it's all going to be amazing. But I think now we're going to talk about what this actually looks like in practice.
That's true. So in practice, it becomes much more complicated because encryption is involved. Let's look at what are the challenges that we face with OCI hybrid. So we know that OCI simplifies the aspect of running your Oracle database in the cloud. However, hybrid DR introduced a new challenge. So what are the challenges? So when it comes to OCI compute, the typical challenge being such as network connectivity, and familiarizing with OCI environments, ensuring that it is secure and it is in a boxed environment where it's not being seen by other uh, outside of your environment, outside of your systems and everything. That's one of the typical challenge that we face, and the same challenge we face with OCI DBCS as well. But apart from this challenge, there is a mandatory TDE encryption that is being provided to DBCS systems, because all Oracle database running on DBCS, whether it's an enterprise edition or a standard edition, it is encrypted by TDE. And this is done by parameters like tablespace encryption for the latest versions, and for the earlier versions, it used to be encrypting tablespace. So whenever the database instance is started or instance is used in your OCI systems, especially in DBCS, the encryption is by default. You cannot disable it. So if you create a new tablespace or data file, the data file or tablespace is always encrypted in your OCI environment. So the challenge until Oracle 19.16 was, so if you're having a DR environment, either in your OCI or in your on-premise system, once you do a switchover, what happens is, so data files must be encrypted on both sides. So encrypting both the sites require additional licensing for ASO, that is Advanced Security Option, and it is additional license for Enterprise Edition, and it is not available for Standard Edition. So not until 19.16, encrypting primary database was required to switch back. So how do we handle that? So the real problem is, so on-premise to OCI is much more simpler. So you create your standby database in your OCI environment. It's much more simpler, straightforward. You just run a duplicate standby or use dbvisit to create a standby database. The standby database is created and archeologs, because from the source is an unencrypted environment, the target can be encrypted without any issue. So it encrypts the target without any problems. So once you do a switchover, that's when the problem appears, because your primary system now, which is an OCI, is an encrypted system, and the standby system in on-premise is an unencrypted system. So what happens here is, an unencrypted system cannot receive archeologs or data files or table spaces that are encrypted. So this was a major complexity and what do you say, a roadblock for using your OCI environment as your production and your on-premise environment as your standby environment. So now, so how do we eliminate this particular challenge? So this is very important. So how we talked about parameters, right? So how a specific parameter helped us to ensure that this challenge is addressed seamlessly. So from 19.16 onwards, there was a parameter called as tablespace encryption, which was introduced. This replaced or superseded the parameter encrypt new tablespace. And so the tablespace parameter can take three values: auto enable, which is enforced by default in your OCI environment. What it means is, so you cannot change this parameter in OCI. It has to be auto enable. And any new tablespace created on your OCI environment, if it's a primary, it will be encrypted by default. The second value is manual enable, which is a default for non-OCI DBCS environment, because this will ensure that your on-premise systems are not encrypted unless until you have an ASO enabled, because and also ensures that it is not automatically enabled as well. So you have to provide the encrypt clause when you create your table space and data files. And third one, which is manually set for you for decrypt only. So this is mainly set on your on-premise environments, because what happens is, any table space or data file that is being migrated or got from your OCI primary database to an on-premise unencrypted system this parameter will ensure that it decrypts the table space and data files and ensures that you don't end up with mixed systems where your on-premise system has both encrypted and unencrypted files. And at the same time, you're not kind of violating any license agreements from Oracle. And decrypt parameter can be set for both a standard edition and enterprise edition so that it will help you to decrypt the table space or data files on your on-premise systems without any kind of TDE requirements. So a solution with TDE decrypt only looks exactly like this. For example, let's take your OCI. Let's take your OCI as your production environment and your on-premise as your standby environment. Here, what happens is your primary database has your TD tablespace encryption parameter set to auto-enable. It has its own key store and it has its own encrypted data files. And your standby has the parameter set to decrypt only. So what happens here is any redo logs files that is transferred from your primary to standby to keep it in sync will be decrypted, and any table space that is created on your on-premise, not your on-premise, from your OCS side will be decrypted to your on-premise side as well. And this would support both your switchovers, failover, recreating your standby databases, and everything would be done without any issues. And we specifically require a 19.27 patch because there are certain bugs that was resolved from 19.16 onwards, where we found out that the restoration for recreating if your standby database in on-premise doesn't work as well. So that's the reason we needed a specific bug fix to be done on your on-premise environment. But
Some,
having said this,
sometimes wonder whether Oracle makes it this complicated on purpose. We we were speaking to one of our partners from Europe about this, and the very experienced DBA, and he didn't even realize this was possible. That never mind the details of it, and then of course the fact that there was a bug in the whole process from Oracle itself just makes it even more difficult. So this is really cool stuff, Vijay. I think everyone is very appreciative for the explanation. I certainly was.
oh, thanks, Alex. And so as we are talking about the complexity, it's the architecture works perfectly fine, but the operational complexity remains because and and here there is always a possibility of making mistakes while setting this up. And let's have a brief look at how the setup is done and how it works, so that we can show you how we eliminate the complexity from a DB usage standpoint as well. So the complex process here. So stay with me on this. It's a couple of slides where we show how complex the setup is. So the first step for you to do is this is common across where you have to provision an OCI environment for your standby database. And what you have to do is you have to drop the default database as well. And one key thing that we have to do here is you have to ensure that you note down the DB unique name that you use when creating your DBCS environment. Because the unique name is tied to your OCA console. So the unique name should match when you create your standby database so that you can use your OCA console for your patching and everything for your standby databases. And once you provision this environment, the first step that we do is delete the default key store. And then once the key store is deleted, what we do is we set the below and parameters on your on-premise. For this, a database restart is needed. So what you set your tablespace encryption to decrypt only, which is by default it is manual enabled. So you have to set it to decrypt only. You have to set your wallet root. You have to set your key store configuration to file, and also for your enterprise edition, what you have to do is you have to set your standby file management to auto. This is keep only for an enterprise. For your standard edition, you cannot use this parameter. And once that is done, what you do is you create your key stores on your primary database. So create a key store, make it auto login, and ensure that it is taken care. And Another important aspect here is if you're using enterprise edition, you can use isolated mode and united mode. But if you're using standard edition, you can use only united mode. So the difference between united mode and isolated mode is united mode has a single master key across both your container and pluggable databases. Isolated mode has multiple master keys for your multiple pluggable databases. With standard edition, it is only united mode is allowed. For enterprise edition, you can use isolated modes as well. And once this is done, what you have to do is you have to copy the key store or encryption wallet keys that was created on your on-premise environments to your standby center to OCI environments. And then you create your standby database in OCI DBCS. You can use duplicate database, you can use dbvisit, that can be done. And for standard edition, ensure that you use standby control file. That's also very important. And another thing is, as we said, that the key configuration file must be set, configuration has to be set to file in your standby environment, that is your OCI, and wallet root has to be properly set to, which should match the the location where you copied the files. And tablespace encryption is always auto-enable. Even if you try to set it to a different value, once you restart, it'll be auto-enabled. So there is no way of, kind of overriding this parameter at all. And now what happens is, this another key thing happens here. So when you create a standby database in OCI environment as a fresh standby database, none of the table space is encrypted. So it is always advised for you to encrypt them manually on your OCI environment. Oracle in a specific MOS note says that you don't have to encrypt them, but what happens is any new table space you create on OCI DBCS environment or anything that is transferred from your primary to standby, that will be encrypted by default. So it is always good to have the uniformity in place so that you just encrypt everything to your standby side. And next, these are some of the queries that we use to ensure that we are in the right direction. So for example, we have to figure out that the wallet is auto login and it is open. And we also run this encryption query on $V encryption keys that will match both your primary and standby and must be empty when you're creating a new key store. And the third query, that is file hash and table space name, this particular from $V data file header will ensure that your on-premise environment, all the table space and data file are not encrypted, because it should show no S for your on-premise and it should show S for your OCI DBCS environment. And another is restore database as decrypted. Uh, so this was the bug that was found in 19.16. So when you create your standby database in your on-premise environment, even with this keyword restore as decrypted, your on-premise environment ended up being encrypted. So you have to apply a patch and then restore it again to ensure that it is restoring it as decrypted. Same with restore pluggable database as decrypted as well. So with all this patch, and also there was another bug that we found out in earlier versions with standby file management, and that was also fixed, and everything has been fixed in 19.27. That's the reason we say that 1927 is the version that we should go to with both standard edition and enterprise edition. So now we saw the complexities with enterprise edition, with data guard and everything. But now let's see how we eliminate this complexity in using dbvisit. Alex, your turn.
All right, thank you. Yep, thank you, VJ. Yeah, I gotcha. It's I don't know if I have to say anything. Everything you described sounds so simple. Yeah, yeah, not. So the everything that VJ was just describing, obviously, it demonstrates that this is possible. This being a true hybrid DR solution going to the cloud and back with standard edition without violating the licensing rules of standard edition. It is possible, but it's kind of complicated. And so, as specialists in database disaster recovery on Oracle, one of the things that obviously we're trying to do is make this stuff accessible for everybody. So, for those of you unfamiliar with our product, we have I guess the quick summary is we have a data guard-like solution. It uses Oracle's own physical replication based on log files, based on archive log files. At a high level, we take the log backups of primary, handle everything to do with shipping and encrypting those backups, and then we apply them on standby. And this works both ways. So what we've done is to support this new hybrid DR flow, everything that Vijay has just been describing, we've packaged that into a solution so that it happens completely autonomously. So you don't have to actually do anything in order to implement all of those steps. Everything Vijay has described, the handling of the key store in the wallet file, the adjusting the database parameters, making sure that we keep track of pluggable databases, new data files, new table spaces, et cetera, we do all of that behind the scenes. So if you're interested in running this sort of OCI to on-premise setup, dbvisit Standby Multi-Platform can really help you to do that. So just a couple of examples here. So what you're looking at right now is a screenshot of our configuration creation flow. And right from the beginning, we help you with everything starting from environment detection onwards. So you can see there that if you are running on Oracle Cloud, our software is smart enough to automatically detect that and identify it to you. And all you have to do is make sure you're using a unique database name, because that's your identifier that we use from that point onwards. And from that, other than that, we prompt you for everything else that's needed and handle everything that's not. So another example here is all we want is for you to specify the transparent data encryption wallet password, regardless of whether you already have the wallet on standby, regardless of whether or it already exists, regardless of which way around the configuration is, we take care of all of that for you. The little yellow warning there. So again, if we detect that you're running a hybrid environment with a primary on-premise and a standby and OCI, we know that in order to support that and to support both a switchover and a switchback, certain parameters need to be set on the database, and so the primary has to be restarted in order to do that, which is not something that would otherwise need to be done as part of our process. So basically, we handle the whole thing for you.
And the only thing that we don't handle is remembering the password.
Yeah, yes, that's quite right. Please don't forget your wallet password. Please don't forget your wallet password. That way,
especially whether it is enterprise or standard, don't forget.
That way, madness lies. Yeah, this has got nothing to do with standard edition or enterprise edition. Forgetting wallet passwords is very, very bad. So just a quick summary. I think we've probably covered enough for today. Just a quick summary is, look, hybrid DR use is increasing. It's increasing because the world is becoming more unpredictable by the day, and because people are trying to get into cloud more and more just to try out whether there's a right fit for them there or not. And obviously, they need to be able to get out of the cloud as well as going into it. It is absolutely possible to do this on-premise to Oracle Cloud solution using Standard Edition without violating the license. We've been very careful to check this and to confirm it with senior Oracle people. But it's kind of complicated. And if you want to automate that complexity, then dbvisit Standby Multi-Platform as of, is it version 12.3, Vijay? 12.2?
Yeah. 12.2.
As of 12.2, we fully support automating this process for you. So, so now we get to wrap up. For next steps, by the way, if you do have any Q&A questions, do put them into the chat now, and I think we've got 5 minutes to answer them. Before we get to the questions, I can see a couple popping in already. We would really recommend you review your Oracle version. Upgrading to 19.16 and later is really recommended, even if you're not following these processes. Even if you're not interested in hybrid DR, it's a good idea to keep your Oracle version up to date. If this subject matter is of interest, do register, just scan that QR code and register for our next seminar in this series, which is going to be called Delivering Hybrid DR with Standby MP. It's going to be Vijay and myself again. We're going to be running you through an actual hands-on live demo of what it looks like to set all of this stuff up. And of course, we encourage you to try DB Visit at any time. Just visit our website. So let's
Yeah,
get
so
to some of these
questions.
questions. Yeah. So the first question is, what happens to the TDE password that was used during the creation of the primary database in OCI when configuring DB Visit? So Vijay, you can take that one.
Yes, thanks for that question. So since we delete the entire encryption keys and drop the database, that keys will no longer be used. So the keys that will be used only with the ones that we use for when creating your standby database, we show the TDE password, right? That's where we create the wallets on your on-premise primary and then transfer the encryption wallet keys to your standby database. That is the physical files, wallet files to your standby database. So the OCI environment, it'll be removed completely. And the second question is, can we use the same TDE password that was used in initial creation of DBAS to configure DBuser standby OCI to OCI? So yes, you can use it. But what we ask you to do is
Yeah.
use only from the primary, because from standby anyway, you're deleting everything, right? You're dropping the database and then removing wallet key. So you'll use the same as your primary. Even if it's OCI to OCI, use it from the primary. So, and that avoids a lot of complexities with when it comes to setting up parameters and everything. It would be much more easier to set up that environment.
So I think
Oh,
it's
so
go ahead.
same with OCA to OCA. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I got it. Thanks, Ravi, for the question, but
Yeah,
it's a very important question to ask. Yeah.
it is, and there's actually a few things around the wallet. So depending on the exact details of how your configuration is set up, it's actually possible for a few different things to happen to the way that you have to treat the key store. And we have all the rules for that embedded in our product, so that you always get the prompts and the warnings. But the short kind of answer is to the whole thing is, if the wallet already exists, help me out, Vijay. If the wallet already exists, we basically help you we need you to provide the password and we will recreate it for you on standby. Is that correct?
No, what we'll do is, if your wallet is already exists, once you provide the password, we just copy the files.
Right. And if the wallet does not exist, then we will help you create it
Yes.
at the time of that the configuration is created. All right. Well, that looks like there are no other questions. So thank you everybody once again for joining us. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. Register for the next webinar, and I hope to talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, everyone. See you then. Bye.